I'm Bryan Hyde, and I'm telling it like it is. Among the many immutable laws of the universe, we find the law of bureaucracy. And it's right up there with the law of gravity in that you're almost certain to find it anywhere bureaucracy is encountered. The law of bureaucracy simply is this. Some bureaucrat will enforce a written rule in such a way as to make the rule and the bureaucracy seem either ridiculous or tyrannical or both. And I have a perfect example of this law in action. My friends Laura and Monty Bledsoe live in Overton, Nevada. It's about 50 miles north of Las Vegas. There they operate a CSA, that's Community Supported Agriculture Farm. It's where they grow organic fruits and vegetables and raise pigs and lambs, again, organically, healthy, locally produced foods. Recently they held a farm-to-fork event with paying guests who came for an opportunity to dine on some of the foods produced right there on that farm. In fact, many of these guests had purchased shares in their CSA and had the opportunity to see their money at work, and a professional chef was hired. They had a professional kitchen trailer hired. They also had a call from the health department telling them that because this was a public event, they had to have a certain type of permit or face an enormous fine. So they got the permit. But the permit, actually they paid for the permit. The permit was supposed to be delivered by the health inspector, who showed up as their guests were arriving for this farm-to-fork dinner. The permit was not issued, and here's why. This inspector, full of petty authority and on the phone with her supervisor, said, "Nothing takes place until you have my permission." And when they asked, "Well, why is it like this?" she said, "Because I said so." So she looked at the foods and she gave 4 specific reasons why none of the food was fit for human consumption. Number 1, some of the food in packages didn't have labels. Under code, you have 3 days from the time that food is prepared before it needs to be labeled if it's going to be sold for consumption. Secondly, some of the meat wasn't USDA certified. Remember the whole farm-to-fork thing? These were locally raised animals. Third, some of the meat wasn't yet up to temperature, although they were in the process of warming it, again with a professional chef in a certified kitchen trailer. And fourth, the cut vegetables were actually considered a biohazard and therefore unfit for human consumption. Well, this set the party back, understandably, but that's not the worst part. The worst part came when the Bledsoes asked this inspector, can we at least put the food aside, store it until tomorrow when we have a family get-together? No, they were told. This is not fit for human consumption. Okay, next option, can we at least feed it to our pastured pigs so this doesn't go to waste? We're talking hundreds of pounds of food. After a call to the supervisor, the answer was, no, it's not fit for the pigs to eat. The only thing that food was fit for was to be dumped into garbage cans and bleach poured on it to render it not only unfit for any consumption whatsoever, they couldn't even put it into the compost pile. Fortunately, the Bledsoes are members of a farm-to-fork legal defense fund, and with their attorney on the phone, they asked the 2 magical questions that we should all understand when dealing with state bureaucrats. Do you have an arrest warrant? Do you have a search warrant? The answer was no on both counts, and the inspector was escorted from the property. Many threats later, the inspector came back demanding police arrest them or at least cite them for something, but when the police said, and what would that be? The inspector couldn't say anything. Because I said so. It wasn't strong enough. The police again escorted the inspector from the property. A dinner party was ruined. Hundreds of pounds of food were wasted. Why? Because someone had the authority to do so. Someone with the bureaucratic mindset said so. So there are 2 really important messages that we can take away from this story. Number 1, even a dog catcher can become drunk on power. In this case, we had a low-level health department bureaucrat who had her first taste of authority and liked it. Secondly, tyranny is far more possible when bureaucrats are allowed to operate under the rule of because I said so. Is that any way to live? Shouldn't we be free to make our own choices regarding how we produce our food, regarding our own health, or for that matter, how we voluntarily transact with others in regards to the food that we produce? I'm Bryan Hyde, and I'm just telling it like it is.